Imagine this. You're just 4 years old. The world is still magical to you. Ice cream trucks, bedtime stories, playgrounds. Your biggest worry should be whether your crayon breaks. But for one little girl, the crayons, the toys, the bedtime stories, all of it disappeared in a single afternoon. She thought she was going on a fun holiday. Instead, she vanished from her family's life for 50 years. This is the story of Susan Gervaise, a little girl who went missing without a trace, lived an entire lifetime under another name, and only discovered the truth when it was almost too late. And let me tell you, this isn't just a story about being kidnapped. This is about stolen identities, broken families, and the kind of survival you can't even imagine. Stick with me, because by the end, you'll be questioning how well you really know the people around you. Susan Gervaise was born in the UK in the early 1960s. By all accounts, she was like any other little girl. Bright eyes, a cheeky smile, and a family that loved her. But here's the thing about kids. They trust. They don't understand danger the way we do. And sometimes that innocence is exactly what predators take advantage of. Now, Susan's family wasn't perfect. They had their struggles, like many working-class families of the time. But they never expected that letting their daughter out of sight for just a few hours would turn into half a century of heartbreak. Here's where things take a dark turn. A neighbor, someone the family knew, offered to take Susan on a trip. Just a short holiday. Nothing strange about it. People did that back then. Communities felt safer. Trust came easier. But instead of bringing her back, the neighbor disappeared with Susan. Imagine being 4 years old, climbing into a car, thinking you're off to see the seaside or visit some relatives. And then, days pass, weeks, no return. For Susan's parents, panic set in. They reported her missing, posters went up, police searched, but there were no leads. It was as if Susan had evaporated from the face of the earth. And for Susan, she was too little to even understand what had happened. She thought, well, this is just life now. The couple who took her, let's call them what they were, abductors, decided they wouldn't just hide Susan, they'd erase her. New name, new home, new parents. Susan grew up believing the lies she was told, that her family didn't want her, that she belonged to this new household. And here's where it gets chilling. Susan didn't know she was missing. She didn't know she was stolen property of grief and loss. She just thought, this is me. Meanwhile, her real family never stopped aching, never stopped wondering, was she alive, was she safe, or was she buried in some unmarked grave? As Susan grew, her life took strange turns. The family that stole her moved constantly, Australia, New Zealand, even the US. Every time questions came up about paperwork, school records, passports, they'd find a way around it. And Susan, she adapted, because that's what kids do. But adapting doesn't mean forgetting. Deep down, she felt different. She didn't quite fit in, and she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was something wrong with her story. Still, what could she do? She didn't know her real name. She didn't even know she was missing. Think about it. Your childhood is stolen. You're dragged from one country to another, one identity to the next. You're constantly uprooted. That does something to your mind. It makes you feel rootless, like you don't truly belong anywhere. Susan carried that weight into adulthood. She married. She had her own children. She built a life, or at least the closest thing she could to one. But no matter how far she ran, how much she tried to bury the past, there was always this shadow, a silence, a missing piece. Think about it. Your childhood is stolen. You're dragged from one country to another, one identity to the next. You're constantly uprooted. That does something to your mind. It makes you feel rootless, like you don't truly belong anywhere. Susan carried that weight into adulthood. She married. She had her own children. She built a life, or at least the closest thing she could to one. But no matter how far she ran, how much she tried to bury the past, there was always this shadow, a silence, a missing piece. Eventually, the truth came out. Authorities traced her back. DNA testing confirmed it. She wasn't the child of the people who raised her. She was Susan Gervaise, the missing girl from 1969. And here's the gut punch. Her real family? They had been searching for her for 50 years. Parents, siblings, relatives, living with a wound that never healed. When Susan finally reunited with them, it wasn't the joyful, tearful embrace you see in movies. It was complicated. She was a stranger. They were strangers. Time had stolen what could have been. 50 years is too long. Too many birthdays missed. Too many memories never made. And yet, there was still love, still recognition, still the miracle of knowing the truth. Now imagine being Susan. You've lived an entire life under one name, raised your children under that name, signed every form, every legal document with that identity. And suddenly, you find out it's all fake. Who are you then? Are you the person on your birth certificate, or the person you became after decades of survival? Susan had to face that brutal question, and honestly, there's no easy answer. Let's pause here. Because this isn't just a true crime case. This is psychological torture. Think about growing up believing your parents didn't want you, believing you didn't matter, and then discovering, no, that wasn't true. You were wanted, you were loved, you were stolen. That realization can break a person. For Susan, it meant relearning her own identity at an age when most people are looking forward to retirement. And for her real family, it meant confronting decades of grief and trying to rewrite a story that had already ended in their hearts. Susan's case exposes something chilling. Kidnappings don't always end in ransom notes or quick police rescues. Sometimes, the victim disappears into another life so completely, they don't even know they're victims. And the scariest part? How many other Susans are still out there, living under false identities, never knowing their real names? Susan's story is tragic, yes, but it also shows us something powerful. Even after 50 years, truth can still come out. Families can still find each other. Wounds can still begin to heal. But it also teaches us this: never underestimate the importance of community, vigilance, and not ignoring red flags. Evil doesn't always come with warning signs. Sometimes it looks like a friendly neighbor offering a holiday. So, what do you think? Could you imagine living your whole life only to find out you weren't who you thought you were? That you belonged to another family, another story, stolen half a century ago? Susan Gervaise's case leaves us with haunting questions, but it also leaves us with one undeniable truth. The past may be buried, but it's never gone. And listen, if you've stayed with me this far, I promise you, the next story I've got lined up is even more shocking. A tale of survival, betrayal, and horror that will keep you on edge from the first second to the last. So, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. This has been the story of Susan Gervaise, the girl who disappeared, lived a stolen life, and came back from the shadows after 50 years. Stay safe, Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next story.